One thing we want within our networks is to have some sort of redundancy. We want redundancy with our equipment, we want redundancy within our equipment, and we want redundancy between our equipment. So these links, we want multiple routes to go to the same location. And when one route dies, then we want it to fail over to the other route. But there are some capabilities of doing load balancing. We have multiple routes going to the same location, so why don't we use multiple routes to get our data to that location, giving us more bandwidth to those different networks. So here's an example of a network that has two different routes that it can take to get to this network over here. And so this router right here can do load balancing to actually increase performance. And then what it will do is it will send some of the packets in this direction and other packets in this direction, giving it twice as much bandwidth to its end destination. Now, with OSPF, two things need to be the same. The administrative distance, which is pretty simple because administrative distance would be 110 on both of those for OSPF. And then also the metric. And so the cost has to be the same whether it's going this direction or whether it's going this direction. So as long as these two are the same, the metric and the AD are the same, your router will actually automatically load balance between these two different routes. In fact, it will actually load balance up to 4 different routes by default, provided that the AD and the metric are the same. By default, OSPF, as long as the administrative distance and the metric are the same, can load balance up to 4, and that's just by default. It can actually go up to 16 different routes that it can load balance between all of these different routes. And other routing protocols have similar limits to them and similar defaults to them. So how can we change this? How can we utilize more than what the default is? Well, if we go into the router OSPF process ID and then type in maximum path number and then the number of paths that we want to take, so let's say we want to do all 16, we type in 16 there, then we would actually change this default to something much greater or less. Possibly we want to do less. Maybe we want to choose just one route and we would just specify that the maximum number is 1. So that way it won't load balance. So those are some ways that we can actually get more out of our different paths to the end destination. Just a side note that EIGRP can actually do unequal cost load balancing. What that means, if these are 10 gig connections over here and these are 1 gig connections over here, it could utilize both of these connections and it would utilize this much more than it would utilize this connection. So that is one of the powers behind EIGRP. It can do unequal cost load balancing.